All right. Good morning, soccer fans. Welcome to the United Coaches Soccer Convention here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We are pleased to be joined by Coach James Scott of the U17 Ireland Women's National Team. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks very much.
Hopefully the travel was safe and you didn't get stuck like a lot of people here because the FAA decided to shut down the computer.
Yeah, I heard about that, right? And I was lucky enough for we're in on Tuesday, so we got lucky on that. Yeah. So hopefully we get home okay now as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, tell us a little bit. How did you get into the sport and your current position with the Ireland FA?
I just thinking about it here during the week. I think I'm coaching over 20 years, so I would have started like in 15 or 16. In my local school, they asked me to come in. I would have played in a competition, and then they asked me to come back and take the next team or whatever. And I would have gone to college then in UCD. It's a famous college in Ireland, and sports management. I only lasted 6 months in the course, but I started my badges, and I always loved that. But I went to do business then, and it took maybe a little bit of a backseat. But I continued to look after teams and so on. And then I think probably the biggest thing is when I done my UEFA B license, I kind of said this is what I want to do. This is can I get a full-time job? And from there then opportunity started to rise, and I got a full-time job with the FAI in 2008 as a development officer in a region in North Tipperary. So I think it was maybe 12, 13 years doing that role. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I got the role of the women's under-17 head coach. And then just recently I took on another role as well, which is basically looking after player development from Donegal to Cork, so the whole of Ireland. Both roles now really work well, so you know every player coming through and all that. And yeah, so that brings kind of to the present day. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that's awesome. So you kind of have close relationship with a lot of the players, and let's kind of talk about the coaching side of things.
Yeah.
Now that you have relationships and you're seeing those players grow up through the ranks, do you have strong relationships with other coaches within FA Ireland?
Yeah, I think it's really, really important that you do, because the reality is I only see the players for a camp 3 days, maybe bigger camps could be 10 days, but the players the coach that are working with every week, you have to have that relationship, see how they're getting on, how they're improving, feeding back to them as well in terms of when they're in with us, and they're feeding back to me. On the player development side then as well, we'd have 11 centres around, so I would directly, I suppose, mentor and help them coaches as well in terms of our program and our curriculum and all that. To be honest with myself, actually, I think my best attributes are coach education and mentorship. I really love that. So that's a massive part, I think. So you're not just developing players, you're developing coaches as well. So yeah, really enjoy that.
So, Coach, how have you seen the game change? Obviously, in the 20 years you've been a part of the game, a lot has changed over time. Women have become more focused on because of things like social media, video, other platforms. But what has changed in Ireland and the UK in general on allowing and giving a platform for women in the space?
Yeah, look, I suppose one of the biggest things is success of your senior team. So if you take England, they've done very well recently, won the Euros. But even Ireland qualified from the World Cup, people are kind of saying this is going to really, really take off. But it has really taken off maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. The coverage now, put up paper, the women's game now as well. I'm just talking to Coach there. If you asked 4 or 5 years ago to a girl coming through, who's your favorite player? They'd say Messi, Ronaldo, whoever. Top players, never a female, but now it's Denise O'Sullivan, it's Katie McCabe. These are the players that they see and the real role models and all that. So I suppose it's just been a kind of perfect storm that everything kind of came together. And look, it's not an Ireland or UK thing. Everywhere, the women's game is absolutely exploded. So we're just kind of, I suppose, part of that now as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to ride the wave, get as much coverage as we can, exposure. So what led you to coach in the women's game as opposed to the men's?
Yeah, so when I started in the FAI, I started as a development officer, and that really was player development, coach education, club development, but men and women. For the very off, I was coaching girls and so on. I suppose I would have looked after some of the international men's teams as well, and that's where I was for a number of years, and wasn't doing so much player development at a higher level with the women, but when the job came up, for me, it's football. It's not men's football or women's football. It's football, and I just said I think that'd be a really, really good opportunity. And it's funny now. I think if a job came up in the men's game, I don't think I'd go for it. I actually I just working with girls and their attitudes and the amount they give you, they want you to improve, the feedback, all that. It's just absolutely a pleasure to be involved. I really enjoy that.
I love that.
Yeah.
So talking about the women's side, what is some of the preparation that's being done by the federation and yourself to get them ready and geared up for the World Cup this summer?
Yeah, so obviously qualifying for the World Cup is just unbelievable. I don't think we, until we actually the final whistle blew against Scotland, that like we're going to the World Cup. Like, and it comes back for me back to Euro '88, Italia '90, when the men's team made their first major tournament. So this is the same time, but like for me at the moment, I wouldn't have like a major amount of work in the senior setup, but I would do a number of scouting and things like that, and that's probably where I will be involved, but we have a lot of home base, because most of our players are playing professionally now, and they're playing in the USA, they're playing in England, and so on. We have home base sessions as well, and that's something I'd be involved with as well. So it might be 3 or 4 or 5 players from our league that's really improving at home that will be on the international squad. I suppose for myself as well, which has been a real success in the last few years. There's been 3 or 4 players that have kind of come from 17s nearly straight into the seniors, and made their debut. So I suppose that's my biggest kind of indicator of you're doing a good job. If you can get players to go into the senior setup, I suppose the 17s we're not under as much pressure to qualify for Euros and so on. It's more about, can we get players up to the level to go to World Cups and perform at that level.
Kind of more free flowing. You look at the Haley Nolans, the Roma McLaughlins, right? They playing in UWS, playing in college, getting that experience, and then being able to jump into the national team fold and have success.
Yeah, 100%. That's what you want. You want players and to have that level in their clubs and their colleges and so on, that they just come in and it's a smooth transition, and giving them opportunities. And I suppose that's great as well, in that in our women's national league, that has improved now as well, that players now can come into the senior international team and they are as fit as the other players and so on. So and this year as well is the first year the league will start now in March, where there's professional contracts as well. So I mean, everything is happening nearly at the same time. It's just nearly unbelievable to keep up with things. It's amazing to see. Yeah.
So where are most of these players coming from that are going to be joining together in the summer? Where are they at right now?
WSL in England would be the majority. You have Denise O'Sullivan's obviously a top player over here, and you have some players over here, some players still in college over here as well. Then we have some players, Norway, Sweden. Sometimes Roma obviously has gone there as well. That's always been a very high level league as well. We've players in Germany. So it's a wide scatter, but it's great now to see. Even maybe 10 years previously, most of our players wouldn't have been professional players. Now nearly everyone is a professional player. That's been it's massive to see as well. So yeah.
So besides the names that we know, Coach, is there one player, you've been with the FA now for over 20 years? Is there one player that you've seen that has developed from the grassroots level to what we're going to see this summer? Is there one player that has to be on our radar?
Yeah, I suppose one player would have been our captain last year, 17s, Abby Larkin. Has done really well, and she's been in around the seniors. She scored her first senior goal there against Georgia not so long ago. Again, a lot to develop, but she's a player I think that we should keep an eye on. Another player would be Jessie Stapleton as well, who I'd say outside of COVID, she probably would have been the most capped player underage ever. Nearly, she was playing 3 years ahead of her age and so on. These are really amazing players, and there's so many other girls coming underneath as well, where you're going, I can't wait to see how they develop and so on. High potential. There's never this is going to be a senior international, but it's very you could name players all day. So that's something, and hopefully as well. We don't want to go to World Cup and then talk about it 15 years later saying it was great and never having been at. We want to qualify for the next Euros and next World Cup and so on, and drive it on and become a consistent team at the highest level. I think that's really important. So it's a big part of my job to make sure those players getting up to that level.
Yeah, and kind of staying on that, how much influence do you have on the grassroots level in Ireland to, build up those players who are going to be there in 20 years' time?
Yeah, so I suppose maybe to give you an idea, I suppose my role is player development, where I'd be looking at the higher level players, but they're all still with grassroots clubs. So we would have, they'd be in clubs, and it could be in Donegal or Cork, Tipperary. They're in a grassroots club, and then they go and play for their league. And if they do well for their league, they come into our regional kind of centre, or centre of excellence, we call them. I'd be directly involved with girls that we play in with grassroots clubs, and even my own area that I was developing officer. We maybe 10 years ago there was no league, there was nothing. A few girls playing with boys, a few league teams were just bringing together best girls that were playing. There was no clubs really and all that, and now it's getting near 50-50 boys girls in the league, so that's been a massive thing to see. But I think you know, we have to always keep our eye on grassroots as well. Like, you know, it's doing very well in terms of our senior team and all that, but you need to be looking underneath as well. Like, so again, we're planning for 5, 10 years, 15 years in advance as well. Like, and you know, that's looking positive at the moment. Yeah.
Well, we've always, you know, the greatest question is, you know, challenges, and we all face them as coaches, you know, from every level of play. But what are some of the greatest moments? What are some of the joys that you have coaching, you know, this level in Ireland?
You know, probably a bit cheesy, but like for me, like we were very much about our culture and how we behave off the pitch just as much as on the pitch and all that. And we try and set that very, very early with our players, and you know, we have a number of principles that we expect. Like, so what I'm saying to you, I remember a few years ago, we were checking into a hotel, and I remember, like, you know, someone that would look like your granddad and granny were coming down along, and they were looking at us going, there's 20 girls coming in here, we're not going to get sleep here or whatever. But I remember, you know, 5 or 6 days later, they'd come to me and shaking hands, said, like, they're credit, like they were so well behaved, their manners around the place and all that. And that's something I suppose we get an awful lot. Just recently we had a UEFA round 1 qualifiers, and I remember we were just packing up and leaving whatever, and went into one of the rooms, and here's the captain writing down, like, you know, thanks very much to the hotel on the flip chart or whatever, like, you know, and just little things like that make you go, oh, that's really, really good. Like, and you know, you love to see things like that, because they're things that you know, are away. And even recently as well, we had one of our players, her granny passed away during a camp, like, and to see how the girls, you know, were so nice and so on. So they're like simple things that maybe don't be out there or whatever, and they're not about winning 1-0 or qualifying or whatever it might be, but they're very satisfying, like, you know. So and my, you know, people go and watch the philosophy, and people go in, well, attack and defend, and my philosophy is develop the player, develop the person. So get the players in, because you need to get them in first, and then develop them as people as well, like, you know. And you know, you see them in 20 years time and they come up to you, shake hands, and they say, oh, we had great times at 17s. That's your job, you know, success, like, you know.
It's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, no, it's a big part of what we look to do. And yeah, very much, I suppose I would have been an American coach would have been a big influence on me, and John Wooden, like, I would have read an awful lot about him and all that, like, and you know, a lot of things I would try to bring into our groups, like, you know.
Yeah.
I can only hope my U10 boys are listening to the way your girls behaved in the hotel. Boys, if you're watching or listening, I know you're at school though, I hope you're listening and understand that that's the way to do it.
Do your homework, guys.
Do your homework and be respectful, right? Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you giving us this opportunity. Megan, any last questions for Coach before we let him go conduct the session?
What can we expect this summer in the World Cup?
Yeah, it's that's a good question.
That's a loaded question.
Put him on the line.
Yeah, I suppose, look, I don't think we can go and kind of say, oh, we're going to get to quarterfinals or this, that. It's going to be difficult. We've got Canada, who are obviously a top nation. We've got Australia, who are at home, first game against them, but there'll be pressure on them as well. And then Nigeria are probably the best of the African nations, like, so it's going to be really difficult. But like, look at Morocco in the World Cup this year in the men's, like, you know, so you never know. Like, I think, you know, we are very, very good defensively, and then when you are good defensively, there's always a chance, because, you know, you might nick a goal or whatever it might be, and, you know, cause a few upsets. So I suppose quietly confident, you're probably what you'd say, like, and you look, and the thing as well is, in the first game, Australia will be at home, but like, there's so many Irish in Australia, like, it's just going to be an absolute, like, festival of football over there, like soccer, I should say, soccer. But like, yeah, so it's something to really look forward to and see how we get on. Yeah,
definitely the group of death and one probably to watch, right? We always have that one group that's going to be, it's just going to be a fight throughout. I think this is the one that's going to be the fight throughout. So, Coach, good luck this summer.
Thank you.
Have fun at your session. What's the session on today?
Yeah, so I suppose people are asking me topics and all that, but we really want to get across reality-based session. So it's like, you know, this is what we do and our methodology in terms of how we get across our information to coaches and all that. So rather than kind of going, we're going to do, you know, central attacking or whatever, it's more just showing what we do and how we interact with players. And I always kind of say, hopefully, you know, people that come and see the session take a few nuggets, like little ideas that they might take back to themselves, like in their environment. Yeah.
Well, awesome, Coach. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully we'll see you at the session.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Cheers, everyone. Check it back in here about an hour. We're going to have another guest from Erie Commodores. Troy Bingham is going to join us to talk a little bit about Erie soccer here at the top of the hour. See you guys soon.